It's going to be really difficult to like drop the whole gay jester, sarcastic, anti-thieves in time shtick rhetoric and actually be serious for this episode, because I am in a slight like silly, goofy, crackhead mood.
I mean, do what comes naturally.
And welcome back to Safehouse Chats.
Welcome back to Safehouse Chats. I'm your host, Snap. We're back after our coverage of the original trilogy.
Yes.
I don't know why I said that. There's only 3 games.
We have not put out any episodes since our coverage of Sly 3. You probably have missed us.
Yes. Sorry about the long delay. And also, I'd like to apologize for no particular reason to Ryan Reynolds and everyone who worked on the 2010 Green Lantern movie. I am nothing before you and the YouTube copyright bots. That's neither here nor there, because obviously I wouldn't have tried to put the majority of your film into a previous episode that obviously didn't go down well with YouTube censors.
The copyright gate will be remembered for years to come. Let's just say that. Anyway, despite us covering all the games in the series, we did want to focus a bit more on the villains. So this is the first episode of our 2-part coverage on the trilogy's villains. And more specifically, this episode will be covering Clockwerk, Neyla, and Dr. M.
The big names.
And then in part 2, we'll be doing the, let's say, minor villains.
The minor leagues. Everyone else. I pitched this episode because I am a huge villains guy. I always have been. I like classic animated movies, the way Disney used to make, with like the weird, loud, queer-coded singing villain who's very sarcastic and bitchy and sassy and wears a lot of purple and green. Fuck yeah, that's what I'm about. And part of, I think, my development in that direction, as with many things, was because Sly Cooper has such good villains. And it's such a villain-focused structure. You have the one small cast of characters, Sly, Bentley, Murray, Carmelita, dealing with such a weird revolving door of supervillains. It's a wonderful series for that. Today we're going to be talking about the 3 big ones, and we'll celebrate the smaller ones next time.
I love the revolving door because you've got, here's a nightclub owner and a therapist.
Yeah, like, really, there's peaks and troughs in terms of professions. And, like, yeah, using the exact same 2 characters, here's a purple iguana. Here's a horrifying spider centaur woman. Like, real breadth of design. Real creativity on display.
Let me spin this nasty web and serve madam. Anyway, so the structure that we've decided to do for these 2 episodes is kind of like interview style, where we've written questions for each other. If you have any suggestions, if you're tuning in and have any suggestions for the following episode, let us know in the comments below.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay, so
would you like to go first?
I would absolutely love to go first.
Hooray!
So, bestie, my first question is, I've covered this one fairly recently on Tumblr, but do you think it's possible Dr. Michael PhD didn't know about Clockwerk? And this has a follow-up question, by the way. But answer the first part first.
I think I know what the follow-up question is going to be.
Wait, how?
Like, just a hunch.
Okay.
Could he have betrayed Connor to Clockwerk?
No.
Okay, because that's my headcanon. I think it's entirely possible that not only did Dr. M know about Clockwerk, because it's there in the Thievius Raccoonus. They do warn each other, clearly in vain, haha, about this hateful cyborg owl monster that will at some point just descend from the sky and kill you. Be aware of that. Whether Connor was a good teammate or not is a subject of debate because it's intentionally ambiguous. I think, even though I kind of fall on the he's like a worse version of Sly mentality, I think he's not so bad a version of Sly that he wouldn't let his useful teammates know about the owl that could kill them.
Exactly.
I think that would be like a, hey guys, heads up situation.
Exactly.
One way or the other, I think Dr. M did know about Clockwerk, and I love the idea that they might have had some kind of meeting and Clockwerk maybe offered, maybe like knew it was not going to help, but offered some degree of information on the Cooper Vault, and in exchange, Dr. M told him where his old buddy Connor had settled down with a wife and kid, because that seems like the perfect way to cap off their relationship.
I agree. I agree because not only what you're saying is like the narrative logic is missing there. It is missing. But also, in that very post I wrote on Tumblr, I was like, I hate when in the third entry in a series, they try to like add some, Guga background info, like retcon thing. So I would hate for Dr. Michael to like have been such a huge force behind Clockwerk and his influence. But at the same time, having him be a Judas figure would be amazing.
Yeah.
Just the way you said.
I think the important distinction there, just real quick, is Dr. M is by no means stronger than Clockwerk.
Yeah.
Clockwerk has seen hundreds of Dr. M's come and go. He ain't shit to Clockwerk. We already started so strong with Clockwerk that we have to come at this from different angles. That is a good point that fucking Spider-Man 3... oh, Sandman actually killed Uncle Ben. Clunkiness. I'm glad they didn't try to make it explicit, but it's fun to think about.
But besides that as well, it just doesn't make sense with his character. Because listen, I love me some good Dr. Michael... Ooh, maybe leave that out.
You took a second to consider whether or not to say that. I think you have the right to. You specifically. Me no. You yes. We'll see if it makes the cut.
Yeah, please leave that out if you can.
Okay.
But I think it's a bit silly for a character whose entire shtick is not only like animal hybrids, but also having a hyperfixation on the Coopers, not mention Clockwerk at all. Like, what?
Yeah.
No.
This does tie into what you were saying in previous episodes where I appreciate that they stepped away from the Clockwerk stuff.
Yeah.
But they sort of overdo it a little bit by I don't think they say the name Clockwerk once in Sly 3.
That is the follow-up question. On a more general note, and from a narrative cohesion standpoint, why does it feel like Sly 3 tries its hardest to avoid mentioning Clockwerk and Neyla?
Yeah. I'm not sure they ever mention Neyla's name either.
They don't.
Yeah. Which is wild because she had such a big effect on everyone's character arcs.
Exactly.
That almost bugs me more than the lack of Clockwerk. I appreciate the idea of first installment, they have this insane, really cool villain. Second installment, they're dealing with the fallout of that villain. They're literally scooping up his corpse to make sure he's still dead. I love that as a narrative hook. And then third installment, I think they were like, if we make all of these games be about Sly fighting Clockwerk in some way, shape, or form, that's going to kind of narrow down the world a bit. Can we write a story that's about something else, which was a good idea, that's a bit mitigated by the fact that they do still tie it into the Cooper lineage, and the heretofore unmentioned Cooper Vault. Maybe it would have been smoother, just hypothetically. Sly 1, they fight Clockwerk. Sly 2, they try to get into the Cooper Vault. Sly 3, they fight Clockwerk again. But I'm not sure.
Don't get me wrong, I do like that it's a completely fresh idea, even though going back to our slide 3 coverage, I was quite vocal about my grievances.
Yes.
But I did appreciate that it stepped away. It's just weird that it just feels like it goes out of its way to not reference the previous 2 games at all, especially when there's moments like trying to get Mari back into the gang. Why did he leave in the first place?
Yeah, there is continuity here. It's not like, oh, we're trying to make it so that anyone can pick up any game and just wander in, like a comic book or like a 90s TV show. I think there was more scope to do continuity. Why, just say the name Neyla. Say the name Neyla once. Please.
Isn't it in slide 3 during a slideshow where Bentley is like, we have dabbled in like supernatural elements before, and they show the slide of like the Mojo Trap action mission? If you can reference that, you can reference Neyla.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Is it time for my first question?
It is time for your... I mean, not that we've answered the follow-up question, but who cares?
I mean, I don't... Was it just a yes or no? Have you noticed? Because the answer is, I have now.
The answer is, who cares?
Okay.
Not to be nonchalant about it, but I don't think we're going to find an answer for it.
Fair enough.
So we might as well follow to your first question.
Okay. My first 3 questions have a nice little past, present, future triality going on.
Nice.
How do you picture the early lives of these 3 characters?
Ooh. And already we have some overlay here.
Okay.
Because my next question has something to do with that, but we'll get to that when we'll get to that. That's an excellent question, actually.
Thank you.
I'll just start with the easiest one, which I've actually actively thought about and wrote about before, which is Dr. M.
Yes.
And his tree.
Another contemplative pause. Weighing it up, thinking about it.
It's earned its bleep. I've expressed it before. I know we're in agreement about it, that Dr. M, even before the gay stuff kicked in terms of his collaboration with McSweeney and Connor, I kind of imagine him having a bit of an arpeggio backstory where he never felt enough, or he was he always got the short end of the stick in life, even though he was a genius.
Yeah.
And growing up gay is just bullying is part of the course, so I can imagine that being a factor. But I can imagine him then being recruited by Connor into the Cooper gang of the time.
Yeah.
And just daydreaming and romanticizing Connor until he got married. And that's what drove him over the edge.
Yeah.
Especially if we go by the Connor was an asshole theory.
It's where he kind of forgives it out of rose-tinted glasses.
Exactly.
And then eventually, then in hindsight, he's like, why did I let that asshole walk all over me? God.
Clockwerk.
Clockwerk's the big question.
Clockwerk's a big question.
Who the fuck is this guy and where did he come from?
Exactly. Oh, this is so tempting to get into my notes for the next question, and I don't know if I should, because I have to answer your question.
Right.
But it kind of defeats the purpose of my question. I just want to say, okay, I'll use some of my notes because I do get into this. It's just Clockwerk's background isn't as interesting to me as, for example, Dr. Michael's is.
Right.
Because it's... Do you remember when we were speaking about Dr. Michael in our Slide 3 coverage and you said that you appreciated the mystique and ambiguity regarding his background?
I had a feeling this would be what you bring up. The fact that you don't want to go too far. You don't want to strip away the mystery.
Yeah. I just think that Clockwerk, although he benefits from his mystique, because we don't know anything about this person's background, if he is a person at all, if he ever was.
Some kind of demon, yeah.
Yeah, that helps make him less of a character and more of an entity.
Yeah.
And that is so powerful in terms of having the game's overall villain be this demonic presence, which is like omnipresent
Yeah.
and immortal. The reason I'm not interested in his background, though, is that unlike Dr. Michael, it's so far rooted in the past that even if we knew, it's like literally ancient history. Like, what are we supposed to do with it, you know?
Yeah. What does it matter?
Exactly. I am a fan, though, of him being of Egyptian origin.
Yes, I would agree. I like that. If only because so many things in genre stories, so many ancient evils come from Egypt. It's just like a total stereotype at this point.
Yeah.
So one way or the other, Clockwerk also just being from ancient Egypt is like, yeah, sure. Just throw it on the pile with all the Yu-Gi-Oh stuff.
Apocalypse.
Yeah. Like the list goes on. We could be here all night.
Also, the owl being a prominent figure in ancient Egypt, it does make sense.
Yeah. And of course, we all know that the Cooper lineage began with Slytonkamen.
It did?
And there was no earlier Cooper. So, yeah.
Something about the world's biggest omelette or something.
Did you know that Slytonkamen invented rice?
Here's my Mexican cousin. He invented the taco. And if you have no idea what we're talking about, it's for the best.
It shames me to say that I don't know enough about Egyptian cuisine to say what Slytonkamen invented. But never mind all that.
I sincerely hope our listeners have no idea what we're talking about. Listen, I leave the Clockwerk stuff up there because not only, again, he benefits from the mystique, and all I can say, at least all I can imagine of his background is that he's from ancient Egypt.
Agreed.
As for Neyla, though, I also have another question pertaining to this, but...
Okay.
I actually have two questions pertaining to that, but...
I'm glad to hear that.
I think this is a kind of a perfect opportunity to just vocalize that I've always wanted a Neyla origin game.
Okay.
Not to rally the troops when I make this reference, but kind of a Shadow the Hedgehog game. Kind of
Okay.
Kind of
with 3,000 distinct endings.
Kind of
only one of which would be canon.
I want to know what is Neyla's problem? What made her...
Hey girl, what's your problem?
Yeah, why are you so evil? What's the background? I can't imagine a scenario. I mean, she's British, mind you, so... But other than that, what is the motive behind being evil?
Yeah.
To that extent.
To that extent is the thing. There is a tiny scrap of information in the Sly 2 manual. Remember when games had manuals?
Oh.
That says that she was born in New Delhi and she clawed her way into a prestigious British university. So I've always took it, this is kind of a stereotypical background for a villain, but I always took it that she had a very deprived upbringing because, as is kind of reflected in Rajan's backstory as well, India has not only terrible poverty, it has terrible poverty right next to people living very lavish lives. So I can very easily picture Neyla was born into a family at the very bottom of her local society, but within clear view of people living like royalty. And even if everyone around her was just oh, well, that's just how life is sometimes, she was no, I want that stuff. On one hand, that's almost admirable to, improve one's position. But suffice to say, A, she took it very far, and B, I don't think she ever planned to share it with anyone. It was just purely for herself, but that's all speculation.
It's giving... I don't remember her character's name, but Marion Cotillard's character in The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh.
The Bane storyline.
Oh, the Talia?
Yeah. Yeah. She's playing Talia al Ghul.
Yeah.
It's kind of giving the whole, her speech at the end, the whole revelation.
Yeah.
And they both wear a fancy bandana.
Yeah. now I guess I'd have to play it backwards, but I'll play the entirety of Dark Knight Rises in the corner. And there's no way that that'll backfire on me.
No, it's not gonna be the second copyright gate by any means.
Dr. Pavel, I'm CIA. Anyway, I pretty much agree with your assessment of Clockwerk. I don't want to go too far into it because of the mystique. I do think it would be cool if he was from ancient Egypt. Dr. M, I mean, obviously he is a genius. That is true. I think it was very possible that he was on track to live a very normal life. Like, even with, clearly he has all of that bad shit inside him. He has the obsession, he has the jealousy, he has the rage. But I think he went to college, he was working on something, he could have just kept working at it. He could have had a quote-unquote normal life within the bounds of society. And meeting Connor Cooper brought him off that trajectory, and that's part of why he's so crazy. It's not like this was inevitable. Like, he has wasted 30 years on a fucked up island because of how his life played out, and he could have just been a fucking college professor or something.
I agree with this assessment because, as opposed to Neyla and Clockwerk, I don't think Dr. Michael, PhD, in any way is evil. I don't think he ever had evil aspirations.
No, he has a layer of decency to him, like in his interactions with Bentley, that the other two absolutely don't have.
Because he thinks he's the hero.
Yeah. I don't think the other two are under any illusions about that.
No. No. Definitely not.
But Dr. M is like, he has these, for all of his like screaming villainy, he has little flashes of being like a perfectly rational man, and that makes it scarier. Like, oh no, who did this to you? And we know. Well, we think we know.
Okay. I don't know if I should ask my second question because it kind of defeats the purpose of what we just said. So I am going to ask it.
Please.
But if you think we should skip, then by all means say that. So I said entering complete hypothesis territory with this one. But how did Clockwerk acquire the technology to turn into an immortal machine? And did he do it to himself, or was it someone else's work?
Okay. This has been something that I have wondered about since I first played Sly 2 20 years ago. Because I get the cyborg thing, and I get the immortality thing. But even as a kid, I was like, but how did he get the robot parts in ancient Egypt? And I think Clockwerk is more magical than initially it might appear by the time of his death. The whole thing about being sustained by hate, that's fucking D&D shit, dog. That's not how computers work. Computers famously don't feel emotions of any kind. So I think at some point in the past, again, probably ancient Egypt, through whatever demonic means, say, Clockwerk took a fatal wound and was just so angry and hateful that it didn't kill him, and he replaced it with like a wooden prosthesis at the time. And as he aged through the millennia and technology got better, when he fought Henriette, he would have had like pirate style gear, and when he fought Tennessee, he would have had Wild West style gear. And by the time he faces Sly, he does have computers and missiles and laser beams. It doesn't show like an intermediate bit. It just shows the flesh owl, which is, now that I say it out loud, a horrible phrase. It shows his original organic body. I'll say that instead. And then the robot parts clink and clank onto him. And that implies that was like immediate. But I think he might have gone through like several bodies in between. And he ended up as a robot because that was the best material he had to work with at the end.
I agree. As much as like we're led to not believe this, I don't think that the version of Clockwerk that we face against is the very like first like primary design since ancient Egypt.
Sure.
I think he did have evolutions. I don't know how. I do kind of like the more fantastical elements behind it because there is magic in the Cooper universe, 100%.
Oh yeah, they turn invisible at will. Like,
And I do think like setting it in ancient Egypt and indulging in those stereotype trope, apocalypse, could help explain how.
Yeah.
But as for who put that, like the parts on, I prefer the idea of him being so petty and rotten that he transformed himself like on his own. Like he underwent this transformation completely on his own.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Again, in the cutscene, that's implied to be the case when Sly talks about how fucked up do you have to be? It would be great if he said that, by the way. How fucked up would you have to be to replace your own body with cold metal parts?
Exactly.
So, like, not a word breathed about an accomplice in that process.
Yeah. That is my second question, which kind of does defeat the purpose of the previous one, but who cares?
I liked that question.
Thank you.
I liked airing out my Clockwerk is a lich theory that I've held for several years.
For 20 years.
The hate chip, that's not a computer chip. That's just where the hatred was. That's not, you couldn't plug that into your computer. It would just melt the computer. It would turn into a black ooze. Would you like to hear my second question?
I would love to.
My second question, because this is a kind of long-standing writing advice thing. No matter how scary and fantastical your villain is, it's recommended that they should be able to... They should be like a three-dimensional person that do person things. How do you think these three spend an average evening?
Well, this is a very Aris question. It's getting the Aris juices tingling.
Oh, okay.
Like putting a character out of the narrative.
Yeah, just like off screen, no battles, no scheming. Just
okay.
It's a Thursday evening. Where are they?
I don't want to make this the episode's like running gag, but like if we consider Dr. Michael PhD's like I can tell
That's three. I should be taking a note of when these all are.
I can tell you exactly what he's doing in his afternoon.
Okay.
Dr. Michael PhD in his afternoon is... Are we talking about like current timeline?
Before they die.
Okay, he's in his lab. It's right after Halloween. It's November.
Okay.
Mariah Carey is defrosting and he's watching it live on the YouTube. He's like, yes, queen. He's like, slay the boots, mama, house down.
Yes, queen.
And with the fucking, what do you call it? Horse gums.
Yeah.
Veneers, honey.
Every year she hits it out of the park. She's a veritable icon of the industry.
Oh my god. God forbid who receives a blowjob from him. Okay.
Why? Just because he has the fangs of a baboon? Just because he has baboon fangs? Does that make you uncomfortable?
Yeah, you know what? Maybe some people are into that. We don't kink shame on Safehouse chats.
I guess not. Let's move on.
Especially after our Thieves in Time coverage. Anyway.
Oh.
Yeah, he's putting the YouTube on. He's watching his favorite gay divas, the gay icons, and he's like, at the same time, creating his new mutations. He's like...
Oh, yeah. Always working on the mutations.
He's having a kiki with it. It's like, what do they call, like, oh my god, I'm gonna sound so old, but what are like the kids playing these days? What do they call it? Like the Roblox like dressing game that's gone viral.
Yeah, dress to impress.
Dress to impress. He's treating the mutations like dress to impress. He's like crab claws with a little like lion tail. I think I've got this.
Can I add a sonic scream to this one?
But yeah, that's like a day in the life.
Okay.
Clockwerk, again, if he's more of an entity,
Yeah.
I can just imagine him like And this is kind of like feeding into like the little gag I have about the Sly One villains, is that the intro takes place years in the past.
Right.
And then we face them as they're sitting in their lairs.
Yes.
So it feels like they've been sitting on that fucking chair just waiting for Sly for years. So I can't imagine Clockwerk doing anything else apart from like just napping in his little like volcano.
Yeah. That was my answer too. I think Clockwerk literally does not have hobbies.
At all.
No.
Nothing.
I also don't think he has needs. I don't think he needs to sleep or eat.
No.
So he's doing what I do when I play Minecraft, where he just has various projects going. He's building his death laser, maintaining a museum of all the raccoons that he's killed, and he just kind of cycles between various things, but he's never not doing supervillain Clockwerk shit.
I'm happy we're in agreement about this.
Yeah.
Because I did want to include something in my questions, but couldn't find an angle on how to include it. But this is the perfect segue. And it circles back to something we discussed in our Sly One coverage.
Okay.
Which is, if we're both in such agreement about Clockwerk and his project and his needs, why does the volcano lair have employee desks?
That was one of the projects. He decided that he might have employees at some point. So he made a little employee enclosure for employees that he doesn't currently have and will never have.
But he doesn't even fit in there.
No.
What the fuck? He can't even sit on that fucking chair.
No. It's for a hypothetical employee that he never hires.
Okay.
Because he dies.
I'll take it. As much as I love the fantasy of like someone clocking in like 9 to 5 at the like volcano lair.
Volcano lair. Yes. Oh yeah, the commute's pretty hard, but you know, the benefits are surprisingly good.
It's kind of like Ms. Ruby's swamp monster. Like it's just chilling in its lair.
Yeah.
You know, that's what Clockwerk is doing. Just, you know, just existing.
Yeah.
And as for Neyla, honestly, if she's that evil, I mean, listen, she obviously like has a job at Interpol, so I'm just assuming that's like what she does on her day to day. But like her being so evil, I could just imagine her like on her off time, just like being an asshole, like kicking puppies and like spitting in other people's foods.
Yeah, but in like a hot girl way where people can't get mad at her.
Yeah, Brad Summer.
Yeah, I think I've said before, this is part of why I like her. She has no superpowers. So that means I think she has to go to the gym a lot. She has to practice with her stupid fucking whip a lot. She has to figure out a way to stay on top of her Interpol caseload, which I imagine, now that I say it, would probably involve bullying some Winthrop type guy into doing it mostly. Compared to the other two, she has to spend more time, like literally at the gym, keeping herself in shape. Based on what she's like, she would probably have a bit of a hedonistic streak too.
Yeah.
Like she would want to be enjoying herself on what free time she has. She'll have all the time in the world once her plan to become a Wardle successfully works. But like, she doesn't strike me as a nerd. I don't think she would enjoy this necessary work.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the reality TV show Bad Girls Club?
Okay. Yeah, based on my noted tastes.
Darn it, I really think you would have. This is like when you went on the gargoyles tangent.
Yeah.
This is my gargoyle.
Yeah.
Bad Girls Club is like a reality TV competition where they gather like bad girls.
Nasty girls.
Yeah, like maybe some with like past criminal offenses or like just, you know, and they just have them coexist in the same house. And I feel like Neyla would thrive in that scenario. So yeah, by no means is she a nerd.
No.
She's a brat.
Yeah.
Although, that being said, I can imagine her, even though I do agree with your assessment based on the manual description. I can imagine at some point in her life also her being an army brat.
Right, yeah. Like moving from place to place.
No.
Oh.
Is that what it means?
I thought that was like your dad is in the Air Force, so you get posted to Hawaii, but then you get posted to Japan, but then you get posted to Saudi Arabia.
That's probably what it means. But I was more so thinking like an army diva, let's say.
Okay.
Like being enrolled in the army for a few months.
Right.
Because of the boots as well.
Yeah. She went through some kind of physical training, clearly.
Exactly. Except if it was the Interpol training.
Yeah. Either way.
Yeah.
It's just really interesting that the final boss of this game has Sly's athleticism and an unusual melee weapon. Like, that's just a really good way to have a little bit of foil to Sly.
And parachute.
And a parachute, yeah.
What do you think about Dr. Michael's day-to-day?
Oh, yeah. Your answer was way funnier than mine. Again, tying back to this weird sense of mundanity.
Yeah.
I think he has like a small, sad collection of books he's been meaning to read, things of that nature. And he never actually sits down and reads them for long because he works on his obsessions and then he passes out. And if he tries too hard to relax, he'll be like, oh, I should be calibrating the laser drill. And he'll just like stand up again and go do that.
Okay, I can see that. I can see the mundanity of it all, especially after the gag with Richards.
Yeah. Weirdly mundane, that.
They tap into that. They tap into it.
Yeah.
Okay. My next question harks back to your question about background.
Okay.
But it also kind of is like, I was a bit torn as to if I should ask it because it brings up a point which I do want to discuss in our upcoming Legacy episode.
Okay.
Which is like cut content and stuff.
Yes.
But my third question, bestie, is you've already expressed how you think it was a good idea to scrap the storyline that Neyla was Rajan's daughter.
Correct.
Why? And if that hadn't happened, do you think she'd have the same appeal to you?
Okay. I generally prefer it when Chewbacca isn't friends with Yoda. I prefer it when...
Explain in gay terms.
when...
Explain in non-Star Wars terms.
I prefer it when the reality TV show contestants didn't know each other prior to the episode being filmed.
Okay. I get it.
Things start to feel small very quickly if there are too many character relations. So I like it that Neyla is just some weird, mean lady from India via Britain, we guess, that comes in and fucks up literally everyone's shit. I can see the appeal of having it be a seemingly sympathetic character, like, oh, my dad is so evil, please help me out, and then she fucks over everyone. But I don't think that really adds a huge amount that isn't there. The whole thing about contrasting her against Carmelita is such a good sequel idea. She approaches Sly and is like, hey, I know you've been dealing with Carmelita. She's very strict and inflexible. I'm different, which is an entirely true statement. Neyla is different from Carmelita. As well as being a foil to Sly, like I just said, she's also a major foil to Carmelita. And that kind of ties both characters together in a very nice way. Rajan's kind of just some guy. Rajan works fine, but he's just a minor villain.
Yeah.
So I don't know if giving him extra focus would have really improved the narrative that much. And there's one other reason that I will get to later in one of my later questions.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that about covers it. Do you have thoughts on this?
I do. Basically, what I've noted down is that for some reason, my brain it has like an insanely difficult time wrapping around the idea of Neyla being Rajan's daughter.
Right.
And I don't know if like this is like media that like has been around in my life since a child. Like it's one of those things like I can't process properly because I can't imagine it.
Yeah, it's just how it is.
I just don't know what ramifications it would have as a plot point. Like, would Neyla not be part of Interpol and instead be introduced in the second episode?
Yeah, that's it.
Would she try to, like, usurp her father and still, like, his share of the Clockwerk parts? Like, it would have such drastic effects on the story.
Yeah.
That I can't fathom.
You said of Dr. Michael
What?
that his lack of focus really hurts him.
Yeah.
Whereas Neyla shows up right there in the prologue. She's there in episode 1. She's there in episode 2. And then, and only then at the end of episode 3, do they reveal what she's really like. So cutting into that at all could really impact her as a character.
Yeah. And even after the reveal, even after like the end of episode 3 reveal, she benefits so greatly from being a wild card and a mystery.
Yeah.
Even though her character is progressively and gradually getting added on, it's just like this bitch is unhinged.
Yeah.
And she can show up whenever and wherever. Like, you're on the train in the middle of the Canadian like wilderness, she's gonna show up.
Yeah. She's great.
So providing not only like background, but also like this very random familial connection. I'm not sure what it would serve because, as you said, in the grand scheme of things, Rajan, especially like not even just compared to Neyla, compared to the Contessa even,
Yeah.
doesn't play such a big role.
No, he provides the spice for the evil plan.
Yeah.
But like, as characterization goes, he is not above average.
Yeah,
She benefits so much from being a cop instead of being some guy's kid.
exactly.
I said at the start of this episode that I love how villain focused the series is. I think it could benefit from more neutral and civilian characters, like the daughter of the villain that you're currently facing, but not in this specific case.
Do we have any neutral characters?
Basically, no. We have the Thieves Guild from, again, Rajan's second level.
Jane King?
And that's Evil Wolf Priestess. Does she count? Like,
Barkley?
ugh, Barkley.
But he's on the good side.
Barkley is technically there. He's technically not a comic exclusive character. He shows up in a cutscene at the end of Sly 2.
In this like Cooper universe, you're either good or bad.
Yeah, you're either a villain, a member of the Cooper gang, or Carmelita. Those are the three things there are.
That is food for thought. I am low-key gooped.
Aren't we all?
The fire slugs.
No, they were bad guys. They were Clockwerk's employees. They were the ones who sit in the chair.
Don't be silly. They don't have arms.
Yeah. What the armrest would only get in their way.
Sorry for being ableist.
Oh no, sound the alarms. You're not appealing to little fire slugs who don't have arms.
Okay. Next question, please.
Okay. We know what Clockwerk did with his immortality. What would Neyla have done if she had gotten it? And relatedly, what would Dr. M have actually spent that gold on, if anything?
That's so funny because that is one of my other questions.
Oh. How did you phrase it?
I said, question number 5. What do you think Dr. Michael, PhD, would do if he actually managed to enter the Cooper vault?
Okay.
And right under, I said, get braces.
Oh, ironically, this is one of the questions that I spent the least amount of thought on. For Neyla, I think that she would have just classic trope. She was seeking immortality and by extension, I guess, a huge metal robot body to fill a certain emptiness inside her. And she achieves the plan, say, doesn't change the fact that she's still Neyla, doesn't change the fact that she's still just empty on the inside. So I guess she would just sort of keep going and she would like take over the world. That didn't do anything. She would like reorganize it. That doesn't help. Just sort of an endless terror for everybody else as she restlessly moves around from world to world. Dr. M has student loans. Again, I think that he went to college. I think he went to college in America. I think he has student loans. And I think that is why he joined the Cooper gang in the first place, because he needed to pay off a very predatory student loan. And at this point, like, I don't think he is motivated by, oh, I'd be able to buy a mansion and put cute manservants in it, and I could buy any video game I want. He's just purely like, I'm not sure he's thinking at all about what to spend the money on.
I think that when someone has a hyperfixation on someone, even if like they get close enough to fulfill that hyperfixation, it just never goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it never receives closure. So what I said under get braces is, again, taking the gay route on this. I'm not gonna say it. I'm almost like 100% certain that he would basically like Norman Bates it.
Oh.
Like just reside in the vault like a housewife and roll in the like coins.
Yeah.
And just sniffing what Connor left behind and like
He's so normal.
taking over its upkeep. Yeah, super. Taking over like and managing its upkeep, thinking that finally he's like worthy of being loved by Connor and he's finally overcome his villain origins and like his grudge and the erotic frustration is like fulfilled. When it's not, he's just like going deeper into the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty tragic.
100%.
But it's not like it happened. So the good news is that he was crushed to death by rocks. Yay! Poor crazy bastard.
He probably wishes he was crushed by something else. Okay. As for Neyla,
Yes.
I always had trouble understanding like when a villain says I'll take over the world, like what exactly does that mean? Like what, run like a world government? Like what exactly do you mean?
Yeah, how invested are you in the bureaucracy of that?
Enslave the people? What does it mean?
Yeah.
I think that she just wants to be evil for the sake of it being evil.
Mm-hmm.
So if she actually like acquired immortality, I just think like she'd spread mass chaos and like, I don't know if she'd kill everyone, if she'd go on a killing spree with her new body.
She might go on an initial killing spree, just to get the old killing spree urges out of her system, but she might get bored of it. That's the good news. One thing I neglected to mention in terms of her motivations is that she's very much, and again, amazing foil to Sly. Neyla steals from other characters in a way that is not cool, compared to how Sly steals in a way that is cool. Like, Neyla steals people's achievements. She steals people's hard work. I think she mostly... I don't know how much she craved immortality so much as she... Arpeggio hired her to help him become immortal, and instantly in her head she was like, haha, it would be funny if instead of him becoming immortal, I became immortal. That wouldn't be too hard for me to do. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
Then she figured it out from there. Like, the idea of someone else getting something cool when it could instead go to Neyla, the most important person on Earth, she can't stand for that. It's the principle of the thing.
I'm kind of thinking of how, although at face value it might not seem that way, because Clockwerk is the only one who outright says, and we don't know why, by the way, it's never explained, but he was the superior thief to the Coopers.
In his estimation, yeah.
Yeah, in his little monologue at the end. But when you actually think about it, all the three main villains are actively trying to steal.
Yeah.
So it is very much like thief against thief.
Yeah. I mean, Dr. M is obvious. He's trying to steal the life savings of the Cooper family. That's pretty textbook thievery.
For what reason? Who knows?
Yeah.
Life-size Mariah Carey cut out.
I could simply hire her to follow me around 24/7.
Mariah Carey like private concert at Coney Island.
Hooray!
Okay. Are we ready for the next question?
Yes.
We've wasted one of mine, but I think that brings us down to 6 for 6, by the way.
Yes. So I think you just go ahead with yours.
Okay. My 6th question then is, I know Clockwerk is technically reincarnated in Sly 2. But who out of the 3 do you think had the most potential to be brought back as a villain in a sequel game?
Potential is an interesting word because my immediate answer is it's definitely Clockwerk, and that's not necessarily a good thing for the narrative. The way I figure it, I have done this before in fanfic. I know I just outlined that I think Clockwerk is more of a fucking warlock than a computer, but the fact of the matter is, by the time of his quote-unquote death, in the year 2002, he was a computer. So I have brought Clockwerk back to life with the justification that he just uploaded his consciousness, all 32 megabytes of it, onto this thing that they had invented at the time called the internet. Then he goes from being this terrifying physical presence with this massive robot body that shoots missiles to this almost equally terrifying ethereal presence that can just like jump from machine to machine. How do you kill that? How do you possibly like contain what you cannot touch? That's right there as an option for a hack writer such as myself to bring Clockwerk back. I think Neyla, as much as I love her, is super dead. Like, the whole thing about the end of Sly 2 is that she merges with the Clockwerk frame and then could not be more explicit and direct. They destroy the Clockwerk frame. There was no body left that we could see of tigress description, and there was very clearly, definitely 1,000,000%. There was the whole point of the game. No owl left. So she's not coming back, which is tragic, but like, that's important to the story. And as for M, it would be easier than Neyla to bring him back. He could have survived, maybe, the collapse of the cave. But, like, I don't know. The whole previous Cooper gang, Cooper Vault, him and McSweeney and Connor, that arc is all wrapped up at the end of 3. Like, it would be like bringing McSweeney back and saying that McSweeney is the villain now. Like, it's just silly. It's just a silly thing to do.
I agree. Even though I've expressed in the past how one of my main grievances is that Michael definitely deserved more fleshing out, it should have been done in Sly 3, not a sequel.
No.
Because he gets his closure. It's over.
Yeah.
So I fully agree with that. And also, I 100% agree with your comments on Neyla. I think bringing her back potentially would like just botch everything that makes her so great.
Yeah.
She's like the villain of a game and you never see it coming, like even though she does it twice.
Yeah.
Like she betrays everyone twice and still you never see it coming. I think that's like how she's a backstabbing hoe and like
yeah, iconic.
Hello, that's what makes her brilliant and iconic, exactly. But she's a one game villain. I think bringing her back would just like, it would defeat the purpose.
Yeah.
So the obvious answer is Clockwerk.
I think I can safely share some details about Undertale now that it's been like 9 years. I'm going to mildly spoil Undertale. I know you've played it. My 2 favorite games, Sly 2 and Undertale. My 2 favorite characters from those games, Neyla and Azrael. What they have in common is they both super mega 1,000,000% die, no take backs. It bums me out that they both die, but to undo either death would feel cheap. That's just how it is.
Because the whole game, or at least like its crux, hinges on that death.
Yeah, that's what they set out to do at the start, and they finally achieve it at the end. They destroy Clockwerk. And by that point, Neyla is Clockwerk.
But also like the iconicism of like what Carmelita stepping on the hay chip means, character development.
Yeah.
The whole Bentley thing, Mari's guilt, the date on the helicopter, like everything.
Yeah, that's all pivotal to all 4 of them.
So I think you're right. Like Clockwerk is the obvious answer. It might be the boring answer.
Yeah.
But it is the most, not logical, but if you had to pick one. I'll tell you though, the whole reason Slide 2 works so well is that we're actively racing to prevent Clockwerk's imminent return. And it's teased so hard throughout the game. It's like, oh no, Clockwerk is coming back. Like, that's the threat.
Yeah.
And Clockla was a last minute thing. The whole game is about Clockwerk specifically coming back, not Clockla.
Yes.
So the way we came to know him in Sly 1 and meet him, it's like we never got that again.
Yeah.
Imagine him coming back with a vengeance, even though he's destroyed.
Yeah.
And there are ways like of him coming back. Like, I like the idea of like a Clockwerk, like Millennium Bug. Like, that's not a bad idea. But again, circling back to the idea of him being this force. Neyla and Dr. M both benefit greatly from having mortal fallacies.
Yeah.
Clockwerk doesn't. They have character flaws. That's what makes them like multi-dimensional. Like, Michael was gay. Neyla is like a backstabber.
They are people at the end of the day.
Exactly. But Clockwerk is a machine. He doesn't have any flaws.
Yeah.
At least surface level. So to kind of like explore that deeper and frame this like absolute icon through a different light, I think could be interesting. But again, yeah, you've like encapsulated it pretty well before.
This is just a quick note, and I think I might have said it in the Sly 1 episode as well, but it's always worth pointing out. Clockwerk laughs.
Yeah.
Clockwerk gets Sly to walk into his gas chamber, and he turns on the gas, and Sly passes out, and Clockwerk laughs. So, like, he still has enough quote-unquote humanity to find it funny when he kills an 18-year-old boy. He's not wholly mechanical. And that's really interesting to me.
And also, like, to add onto, like, the Clockwerk background origin story theory time, I love this idea of Clockwerk initially being a mortal owl, applying the mech onto his body, and over the years, the mech and the, like, machinery and the, like, cold technology, like, the whole thing, like, kind of, like, taking over, and him slowly like losing his quote unquote humanity.
Yeah.
Or like his, you know, owl aspects as an animal. He still has some in him in the present timeline of like him laughing, but it's mostly just Robo. Whereas like in the past, he could have been more owl.
Yeah.
I think that's like interesting. But again, it's like the whole mystique. The whole reason that like this conversation is so interesting and so layered and we're like coming up with all of these like different theories is that all of these three characters retain their mystique. They benefit so well from it, which is crazy.
That's very true.
But yeah.
Less is more, clearly.
Exactly. Okay, what is your next question, bestie?
My next two questions are kind of related. They overlap a little bit. We've been very much focusing on this as like in-universe, like treating them as people that you could maybe meet. But this is moving back more into the Sucker Punch development studio, treating them as fictional characters who were created. If you could change one thing about how they were written or performed or designed, what would it be for the three of them?
That's a tough question. I think that if I had more time to think about this question, I would probably give very different answers, but I am kind of like being put on the spot here.
Okay, it is a heavy one.
Yeah, it is a heavy one. This is a bit of a stupid answer.
No, please.
But like the very first thing that's popped into my mind when you asked the question and didn't even finish asking the question was like Neyla not being purple.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
That's fair. I said in the very first episode, it's a weirdly common thing for how specific it is, in that there's like, 4 or 5 characters like this. I like it when the cat is purple. I like purple cats, but it's not something that occurs in nature. It looks nice. I think it's a perfectly good design, but it is a bit weird.
And it also kind of like speaks on how well written these characters are, that like we're like nitpicking on like the colors and stuff. But Again, if I had more time, I'd probably give a better answer. But for Neyla, it's her color because it's the only thing that like stands out for me immediately.
Sure.
For Clockwerk, I don't want to be a huge hypocrite. Exactly after saying that like less is more and like they benefit from the mystique. All three of them benefit from the mystique. But I do feel like all of the villains, but specifically the Sly 1 villains benefit so greatly from environmental storytelling.
Yes.
The levels definitely like help build the characters and flesh them out.
Yeah.
And I think that we could have had that with Clockwerk as well. His level is not the best by any means. It starts with 2 or actually 3 horrible mini games.
Horrible challenges.
And then when we finally get to the platforming,
Yes.
is like, give us something. Like, give us something about this guy instead of the employee desks. And honestly, I'm not even talking about like something major. Just have like a framed portrait
Yes.
of something or a note or like, where does he nest? He's a bird. Something. Like, give us something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm going to cut in to say that that's pretty much my own answer. Again, we've stressed this entire time. You don't want to cut into the mystique. You don't want to give too much away. But he does not get a lot of time to actually talk.
Yeah.
So I would have liked a little bit more of that somehow.
Yeah.
I don't think he says anything to Carmelita, for instance. So, like, they could have explored that dynamic a bit more.
And I haven't thought of something for Dr. Michael. Even though, like, my main grievance with Sly 3, or not my main grievance, but one of my main grievances with Sly 3 is how Dr. Michael is handled. As a character, I think, as I said before,
Yeah.
his shrouded background is more appealing and interesting to me rather than Clockwerk. So I wouldn't change it the way I suggested Clockwerk's would be changed. Like, I think it's hinted at, but also like obscured the right amount. Like, there's a balance with Michael. So I wouldn't change that.
Yeah.
What I would change though is how he only gets exposition at the beginning and at the end of the game.
Yeah. Again, more chance for him to actually speak.
More chance for him to speak, or Sly in between the episodes could discover more things about Michael, or just tell us like something in order to not have it seem as if we're receiving an exposition dump right at the end when we've already like put the pieces of the puzzle together, you know?
Yeah. That's broadly what I said. The specific idea I had was Sly could have broken into his office. So, exactly with Clockwerk, technically this entire space is his, but it doesn't give it a lot of direct characterization. But if we saw where he worked or where he slept, somewhere that he spent a lot of his time, that would have been a great way to sneak in. Like, maybe he has, say, a portrait of the original Cooper gang, but Connor's face, keeping the running gag, Connor's face is out of shot, but it's like clearly been ripped off. Or like we could see how his desk looks, or just something like that.
Cane Island, the exterior is severely underutilized.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, it's just like a vat of green ooze that even that is never explained. And for some reason, and I don't know why, the first thing that comes to mind is, have you ever played Crash of the Titans?
No, but go on.
I don't know if this is like a Mandela effect or something, or like something from the depths of my memory, or like a figment of my imagination or something. But for some reason, I remember that they have a volcano segment.
Okay.
And when you explore the interior of the volcano, I think there's like labs, and that you like enter like rooms and interiors and you get to explore. And I feel like if the entire buildup is infiltrating Cane Island, then show us the gang infiltrating Cane Island. Like,
Yeah, Show us the inside.
The part where I get the most excited is right during the prologue when you break the vent and Sly enters and he goes above the elevator.
Yeah.
Because it shows you the interior.
Yeah.
And like a room. Whereas like the outside is like whatever. Like we've seen a fortress countless times, but like exactly like flesh out Dr. Michael through environmental storytelling. And I love the idea of an office.
Okay.
But yeah.
That covers it all except what I would change for Neyla.
Please share.
I've always, in the course of this podcast, made a policy of always being very complimentary toward all of the voice actors. However, my least favorite thing about Neyla is her flawless British Cockney accent, which is done by the same American woman who voices Carmelita in that game. No. I headcanon, again, because we are told she is from India, I headcanon that the accent is fake in universe. She arrived in England and she went to a fancy university and she started talking like this on purpose to prove to the other students that she was smart like them. But I think she should have, like, an Indian accent under that. And I think it would be really cool if... Because her whole thing is that she starts off very composed, and as the story goes on, she gets, like, more and more open in how angry she is. Like in Prague and in Canada, when things go wrong and she's swatted away from the Clockwerk part, she gets very angry. I think it would have been amazing if she like slipped into her native language or something and it became clear that the I'm from England and I'm very smart was like yet another front. But in practice, it's just an American person being like, yeah, British accent? Yeah, I can do that. Let me take a couple swings at it. Like, is she posh or is she lower class? Britain has a huge amount of accents. And at one point, Bentley calls her Cockney, which is very different from fancy university talk. It's just like, I don't know. It feels very American.
I love me some spotted dick and some crumpets, love. You're right, love. That's so funny because my next question...
Oh, no.
I didn't know about the manual thing. I didn't know she was meant to be Indian. So my next question is, where where in the UK does Neyla come from and what is her favorite British food?
Oh, no. Well, I think...
Oopsie.
I'll just real quick recite from memory what I know from the manual. I could pull this up on screen later. From what I remember, Neyla was born in New Delhi, specifically. She somehow made her way to a, quote, prestigious British university.
Really?
So I picture Oxford or Cambridge, maybe somewhere in London. She started what is known as a homework ring. It's basically like multi-level marketing pyramid scheme, except for homework. You get 2 people to do your homework, and they get 2 people to do their homework. And some idiot at the end of the chain is doing a bunch of homework, but you do none of your homework.
Wait, this is written in the manual?
This is in the manual.
What the hell?
And Interpol was, quote, impressed by how she was able to manipulate the people around her, so they offered her a job in law enforcement. Are you Googling it?
Oh my god. Okay. Constable Neyla. Neyla grew up a poor child in New Delhi and scammed her way into an exclusive British university.
Scammed? Okay.
Scammed her way.
Not clawed. Scammed.
I mean, fake visa et al.
That's hard.
I mean, she pulled, what's her name? The one who went to prison and who was recently on, like, Dancing with the Stars.
Right?
Anna Delvey.
Oh.
Do you know Inventing Anna?
Oh. Was she the lady who was just like, yeah, I'm a princess?
Yeah, lying about, like, her identity.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a princess.
That's basically what Neyla did.
Yeah. Clearly it works.
While there, she used her strong powers of persuasion to create a homework ring of other students to do her work for her.
Yes.
When the ring was broken and she was discovered, the authorities were so impressed with her skills that they offered her a job at Interpol.
Which that tells you everything you need to know about the Sly Cooper version of Interpol. Interpol is held together by Carmelita Montoya Fox. And otherwise they're like, wow, this terrifying spider lady seems like the perfect person to run our prison system. Let's let her operate with no oversight. Just the most trusting cops in the world. Wow, you're great at lying. Do you want a badge?
ACAB.
Yeah.
Okay. They believed she could get inside the head of the criminal element. Well, what the fuck did you think was gonna happen?
God. I praise Neyla as a character, but so much of her success is based on the people around her being stupid.
What the fuck? Oof.
Especially Arpeggio. He had no, redundancy plan in place. Poor bastard.
Girl, let's get it together before you want to read. Constable Neyla is a very charming person, subjective, who is capable of instilling trust in anyone she speaks with.
I think she's charming.
And purple.
Yes.
This is fascinating.
Right? Yeah, it's just there in the manual. You can completely miss it.
And then it has a sly quote under it. And it says, Constable Neyla sounds very interesting. I'll have to keep my eye on her. And then Bentley, Sly, pay attention and stay alert. Well, girl, again, what the fuck did you think was gonna happen?
Wow, she's great at lying and manipulating people? That's kind of cute.
Who knew?
I should hang out with her one-on-one. Alone.
And we're out for that date in Bollywood. Bitch. Sit your ass down and shut the hell up, bitch.
I have been pondering your actual question.
Okay. Please share.
Like I said, Oxford or London or somewhere in the south, in the leafy suburbs of the south of England. And fish and chips, obviously.
Safe answer.
Yeah. She would mostly, struggle with beans on toast or whatever the hell else.
Who wouldn't?
But, A, she's a cat. Obvious answer. B, fish and chips is good. They were onto something with fish and chips. It's simple, but it works. Do you disagree? Do you not like the fish and chips?
I can't believe we're giving credit to British food.
We're giving credit to merciful Lord Poseidon, who invented the ocean. And whatever Aztec deity is responsible for potatoes. Hello, this is your editor speaking, finishing up the episode in the midst of a bad cold. I looked it up out of curiosity, and I believe the deity that we can thank for potatoes is Axamama, the Inca goddess of potatoes. While I was on Wikipedia, I also confirmed that fish and chips may have been invented by Jewish immigrants to Britain. So, no, we do not have to give it to the English, this or any other time.
I want to know who or what is a toad in the hole. I want to know.
I don't want to know that.
It's probably I don't know, sausage wrapped in pig intestine or something. I don't even know.
Do you have an answer for this? Do you have a...
I do. But it was let's keep in mind, it was all prior to
yes.
manual entry discovery. I said she just gives me major Liverpool energy.
Okay, I could see that.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
And I said that her favorite British food is Victoria sponge cake.
Okay. I can see her having a sweet tooth. I assume that's sweet. Is that sweet? I don't trust it to be sweet.
It is sweet.
Okay.
It is sweet. I don't know. Whenever I think of British food, I obviously the first thing that comes to mind is disgusting, but also I kind of remember a Vogue YouTube video from a couple of years ago where they had Florence Pugh answer some questions while she tries British food. And I don't know, something about her eating Victoria sponge. I was oh, there's a bit of a diva element to that.
Yeah.
So,
I can see that.
yeah, Neyla would like Victoria Sponge. Let me just Google what toad in a hole is because now I cannot stop thinking about that.
Oh,
Traditional British dish consisting of sausages in Yorkshire pudding batter,
oh.
usually served with the onion gravy and vegetables.
I like Yorkshire pudding.
Yorkshire pudding is okay.
Yeah.
I will say that. And Sunday roast is fine.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with a good Sunday roast.
No. Great. So that leaves me with one question and you with...
2. So I will go.
Let's go.
Like I said, this one is related to my last question, and hopefully it is not as hard, but I think it might be as hard. What would be a plausible alternative species for any of these 3?
That's an excellent question.
In the design studio, they spill ink on the original design, and they're like, oh no, I can't remember what animal this character was. What animal should they be?
A skunk! Ooh.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
What if Neyla was a skunk and she still had her, like, she still was athletic and had an interesting melee weapon? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Please share your answers while I think of something.
That is fair. Going down through them, I think Clockwerk benefits hugely from not being shaped like a person. One of the clear themes of this whole episode is that Clockwerk is not so much a person as he is a force of nature. Mostly, the characters in Sly Cooper have 2 legs and 2 arms and a torso. They're just like, nope, here is an owl. Here is a very large owl that is not even like owl-shaped, honestly, just kind of falcon-shaped. So whatever else he would be, I think that is a good element to retain. So I said snake, that he would be a giant metal snake. He wouldn't be a snake guy. He wouldn't be wearing a suit. He's just a giant, terrifying snake monster. Because the other thing is owls might eat raccoons. So I wanted to check if there was anything that also preys on raccoons. And a snake might. So, close enough.
We're on the same wavelength with this because while you were saying it, I was like, what eats raccoons? And what would check the box of not being like traditionally like anthro-shaped?
Yeah.
And the 2 things we haven't like properly received yet are fish
Yeah.
and like a snake.
What if he was a shark? God, that would be scary.
Ooh. But how would he have killed all the Coopers?
With difficulty. That's what makes it so scary. They were there in like fucking Wyoming or something, somewhere really landlocked, and he just dragged himself over to them.
I would go with snake too. If I think of something else, I will, but snake is an excellent answer.
Okay. For Neyla, I love that she is a cat. I think having her be some kind of cat was the correct choice. She's very graceful. She's very aloof. She's the classic kind of femme fatale. And there's overlap there with cats. Going all the way back to, this was the thing that I put a pin in for later. I think Neyla is only a tiger because of that initial Rajan connection. The thing you have to understand about tigers is that they are fucking massive. They are the biggest cat in the world, and as such, there's still a certain grace to them, I suppose, but mostly they just, like, walk up to you and rip you to shreds, and that's it. They're beefy, fucking, couldn't knock them over with a pail of water. And that's not really what Neyla's about. So I would just scale her back. I did a quick Google for what other animals are in India. Tigers are being the national symbol of India works nicely as well for her heritage. There's something called a clouded leopard, which is still pretty big, but more slinky, more dexterous. Or, again, because she's a foil to Sly and raccoons are not that intimidating physically, you could go much smaller, and she could be a little marbled cat, which is like house cat sized. But either way, cat part's good. The tiger part is questionable because, like, she's not 6 foot tall and muscular. She should be, but she isn't.
Okay, I see the logic. I'm picking up what you're saying. For me, as a huge Carmelita lover, a Carmelita stan even,
Yes, We love and respect Carmelita Fox in this house.
Absolutely. Except when we're covering Thieves in Time.
Huh? Or what?
One of my favorite aspects of Neyla's initial, like, first 3 episodes is Sucker Punch setting her up as Carmelita's, like, polar opposite.
Yeah.
And constantly, like, having them face off and clash.
Yes.
So I'm kind of thinking, like, what would the polar opposite of a fox be?
Yes.
And I'm thinking wolf.
Ooh.
A wolf could work. It's just that a wolf would kind of give her intentions away because of, like, the big bad wolf.
Yeah. And again, like the tiger, it's very physically intimidating.
Yeah, it's not an animal which has a duality to it.
No. Which tigers do, in fairness. The thing about foxes, if you need help with this idea,
I think I know what you're gonna say.
there are multiple types of foxes.
Okay, no.
So you could have her be an Arctic fox or a fennec fox, and then she's like from Greenland or from Egypt or something.
I thought of having her be as either a fox or a raccoon, but having not just Neyla, another fox or raccoon in the series, I think would be a very interesting yet polarizing idea. It's kind of like attached.
Yeah, you want to do it carefully. Yeah,
What I am thinking is, and I know how much you love Zootopia,
sure.
and Zootopia adjacent fanfic, as we've explored before.
So sorry about that.
I'm sorry, I had completely forgotten about
Yeah, you blocked it out.
not just that, and I'm resisting the urge to say it. Mr. Beast!
Ah,
I couldn't help myself.
we've still got it. Our healing journey is still underway.
Yes. And throw Dr. Michael's into that too.
God damn it! After you'd already resolved to stop saying it. Oh. Anyway, Zootopia. What are you saying about Zootopia?
What if Neyla was a lamb?
Yeah.
What if she was a sheep? She wouldn't be as intimidating post-reveal, but I think it would make the twist all the more... I mean, she doesn't have to be, like, common media, like, super, like, innocent lamb.
Yeah.
She could be, like, a bit of, like, a sassy sheep, like, lamb. But also foxes, like, circulating, like, the fields of the lambs.
Yeah.
A wolf in sheep's clothing.
But it turns out
You know.
that the fox is good and the sheep is bad.
So that is my answer for that.
In the narrative, it appears that the fox is bad and the sheep is good to the bosses. Yes. I like that. I like that as an approach. Finally, for Dr. M, this question is great because I praise all 3 of them for their initial animal depiction. So much thought went into every animal in this series. I can only hope to match that when I'm writing my own talking animal bullshit. Clockwerk is great because he's non-anthropomorphic. Neyla is great because it reflects her being Indian and her, like, femme fatale energy. Dr. M is an intelligent but angry guy, and they express that by having him be an ape, apes being one of the most intelligent type of animal in nature, specifically a baboon or maybe a mandrill, both of which are fucking terrifying when they're angry, which is a lot of the time. So baboon was a great choice. Approaching it from a different angle, because there's so much foil between him and Bentley, there would be potential for him to be an unsettling reptile. So I suggested Komodo dragon.
Okay.
And he's living on his weird tropical island, and he's got his poison saliva.
Right. I like that. I'd even go so far as to say a different kind of turtle.
Oh.
Because it's not as... With Sly and Carmelita, for me at least, they're the main duo of the series. Like, a fox and a raccoon is iconic, it's attached to their names. But with Bentley and Mari, I think we could be a bit more flexible and take a few more liberties. So having him be like a different kind of like a tortoise or like something else, like another species of turtle.
Sure.
That could be interesting. I think it would be too much on the nose though.
Yeah. I think they did a good job with McSweeney being a walrus.
Yeah.
Like the contrast between a walrus and a hippo. They're both aquatic mammals. They both have the like a tusk situation.
Yeah.
But they kind of didn't do the same for Bentley and M.
I just like never actually thought of how much Dr. Michael is
Gay.
similar to no, I've given that way too much thought actually. How it's similar. Now, if he's a top or a bottom, now that's a different question. And that is my last question. Actually, that would be an excellent last question. I never actually thought about how similar Dr. Michael is to Mojo Jojo.
Wow. Yeah.
Evil monkey scientists with shit on their heads.
I will break into the Cooper Vault. The Cooper Vault will be broken into by me. I will go to the entrance of the Cooper Vault and I will open it by force. I will use force to open the entrance of the Cooper Vault.
And they have to face against a sisterhood.
Yeah. Blue, a green, and a red-ish.
I love your explanation of having it be both a brainy animal that is also like brutal. I'm not sure what else that could be. I think they've kind of like, it's not a brutal animal by any means, but they've explored the mad scientist being a frog with Sir Raleigh. So that has gone a bit like to waste.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking like a fish of some sort.
Yeah. A fish would be kind of unsettling because, as you said, we haven't really done that. So I could picture him being like a fish walking around with a weird robot body, maybe.
I was thinking of like the fish from Megamind.
Yeah, perfect.
With the like ape body.
Yeah. And then he could have had like a different, less fucked up looking robot body back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And now he's got this like abomination of a thing that he lumbers around in. That would be cool.
Yeah, I think, again, I'm being a bit put on the spot, but I think like that's a valid answer. Like a fish. And that would also like supply the big fish theory as a background. Like he was like put in like his fishbowl by Connor. You know?
Yeah.
Kind of like metaphor.
And then at the end of the game, Murray could eat him.
Or Neyla could turn him into fish and chips.
Yeah.
Period. Okay.
Ara's final question.
Yes. Which is not if Dr. Michael is a top or a bottom.
Good.
But I am searching for those answers as we speak. So, ending it on a semi-silly note and kind of meshing it with the next episode.
Okay.
Do you think Clockwerk had multiple iterations of the Fiendish Five over the centuries? And who do you think was his favorite from the Fiendish Five in Sly 1?
That I've never thought about the first part of that. I do find it very curious that he ever formed any team.
Yeah.
Because why? Why bother?
And 5 idiots specifically.
Yeah. He can do, like, arguably there's stuff like he doesn't know necromancy as well as Miss Ruby. Or, like, having an organized crime guy like Mugshot gives him a monetary flow, which is useful.
But even those things seem so beneath him.
They're pretty beneath him, yeah. So, I don't know why he did it circa 1992. I don't know why he would have done it at any earlier point. I think he easily could have used, like, lieutenants and pawns through the years. Because, like, there used to be way more concurrent Coopers. He winnowed it down to just Sly. But I think back in the day, there would be, like, a Cooper active in America, and a Cooper active in Asia, and a Cooper active in Africa, and no internet. So I could see him having, like, a network of spies, say. But I do not see what he gets out of having someone follow him around. That said, I absolutely know who his favorite was, and that is Sir Raleigh. Because Sir Raleigh, as we established in his opening cutscene, was hired to the Fiendish Five to be their, quote, chief machinist. So he's in charge. Sir Raleigh does machines, as the Ninja Turtles would say.
The who?
Then you go to Clockwerk's volcano lair, and his machines...
Wait, back up. The who?
They're the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles song. There's a weird and clunky lyric that says Donatello does machines, and then they just move on without defining what the fuck that is, and it sounds weird. I don't know.
The last time I was in the sewers, I was just a teenager.
Bentley also does machines. Anyway, just picture this. You're Sir Raleigh. You are a pretty good inventor, an engineer. You are hired to the Fiendish Five because they need your technical expertise. You feel so good about the evil supervillain weather machines you build. One day, there's a company picnic, and your otherwise pretty elusive boss invites you all to his Russian volcano lair. And you go there, and it's immediately clear that your boss is an order of magnitude better than you at making machines. I think, much like me, Clockwerk thought Raleigh was a funny, silly, goofy little guy, and he just liked his steez. And he gave him what was actually secretly a completely pointless job. just to give him something to do, you know? I don't think his favorite guy is Mugshot. It could plausibly be one of the other two, but I'm putting it down as Sir Raleigh.
Okay.
Because of the redundancy of it all.
Okay.
What's your answer?
Well, for the first part, I like this logic of multiple Coopers being active simultaneously and Clockwerk having... I don't think he ever relied on the people he hired. I think it was more so international pawns to just scatter throughout the globe.
He doesn't seem like the kind of guy who relies on anyone else.
No. It's more so just having officers.
Yes.
Or pawns, exactly, pawns. Just like the end of Teen Titans when the Brain has all of his agents spread throughout the continents. But I think he did have multiple iterations of the Fiendish Five throughout the years, because why would he, especially applying the logic that now it's just Sly.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past there were multiple Coopers active simultaneously, especially after applying that logic. Why would he, after centuries old streak of successfully murdering raccoons, finally choose 5 idiots as his disciples?
Yeah.
It's just I think it's stupid.
Yeah. One of the pages in Sly 1 is from a Cooper ancestor who did computer stuff.
Yeah.
So presumably he was a peer to Connor.
Yeah.
So there were multiple Coopers even as late as the 80s.
Yeah.
Maybe this version of the Fiendish Five was formed in that era. I don't know.
As for his favorite...
Yes, I'm very curious about this.
I can't imagine him tolerating any of them, to be honest.
No.
Maxshot and Ms. Ruby are a definite no.
Yeah, they're too loud.
Initially, I would have said Sir Raleigh as well, but Clockwerk just seems to take everything so seriously.
That's true.
And Raleigh is his motivation being bored is just so shallow and narrow-minded that it's they couldn't possibly vibe. Whereas with the Panda King, at least he's quiet.
Yeah.
So
I think Panda King is a very sensible answer. If I didn't have my little machinist theory, I would have gone with Panda King. I think Clockwerk could see the value of having someone like the Panda King around for, wise martial art phrases or whatever.
I think we can both agree that the least likely is Mugshot, that he actually loathes Mugshot.
Absolutely. Mugshot's lucky that he didn't kill him himself at some point, just out of whim. I'm tired of this guy.
And I don't blame you, Clockwerk.
No one could.
Okay, what is your final question for this episode, bestie?
My final question, to my own shame, is... Fuck, marry, kill.
Oh!
That's it.
Fuck yes.
Yay.
I mean, how would this even work, though?
Yeah. Let me know if you want to hear my answer before or after your own.
I don't think I do.
Okay. No. Just don't tell me. Episode over.
Let me just tell you, we do not condone bestiality at Safehouse chats.
No, of course not. This is a hypothetical.
Yes.
Where you're also a talking animal, I guess.
Okay, if I was a talking animal, that's a great way to soothe me into it.
To cover our asses legally.
Okay. Fuck Neyla.
Okay.
Because she's a sexy cat lady.
Of course. Yeah.
Kill Clockwerk.
Yes.
Because I can't see any other way with that, like, going down.
The other two options don't seem good, do they?
I mean, with the others, at least there's a, like, certain anatomy. As for, like, the finding the owl Uzi. I don't know how that would work.
Well, also just his cold metal body full of laser weaponry.
Oh.
I've been on Tumblr.com. I know there's an audience for that. More power to you. That doesn't seem like it would be enjoyable.
My dick fell off.
Your dick was blown off. What's this passive voice?
Well, and then I guess marry...
By process of elimination, yeah.
Yeah, marry Michael, because, okay, at least, okay, I'm actually standing by this option, because marrying Michael would make an excellent, as I've highlighted, housewife, fully due to the I'm sorry. It's the truth. Like, there's no other way to put it. Like, you'd come back home and he'd have the freaking pink gloves for the dishes on and the apron.
Yes.
That says happy wife, happy life. He'd cook the dinner.
I have planted new roses in the back garden. I hope they come out better than last year.
All of that. All the nuclear family wife. All of that. And then...
It would be healthy for him, I think.
100%. 100%. Because that's what he wanted with Connor.
Oh.
But then he'd be like, at the end of the day, I've slaved over the, like, oven for that turkey. The least you can do is, like, let me blow you. And I'd be like, ooh. Maybe the marriage would be, like, based on celibacy. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Would you like to hear something really cool?
We agree.
Exact same answers.
Has a curse been broken?
Yes. I think we can call this a curse breaker. So, this all came very naturally, except for the last part. Kill Clockwerk for two reasons. A, as we've covered, the other options don't seem good. And B, Clockwerk is immortal. So, if you killed him... I mean, I think a big reason that Sly is so cocky at the start of Sly 2 is that he killed an immortal guy.
True.
Like, the confidence boost from killing an immortal guy.
That's fair.
You're like, yeah, that's pretty good. A life hack about fuck, marry, kill is that if you marry someone, you can have multiple fuck with them. So if you're really into a character, you can marry them and have multiple. But that said, as much as I like Neyla...
Who would want to marry Neyla?
I don't think it's a good idea to marry her. I think a one-night encounter, then you never see her again, is the best possible approach. Like, that's what Sly wanted. You know Sly wasn't gonna be, like, texting her too much afterwards. But the idea of... Neyla even being like my girlfriend is like, that is not gonna work out long term, is it?
Get the prenup, honey.
And then by process of elimination, Dr. M. Mary, you've made some excellent points. I think it might be good for him, but on the off chance it isn't, you'll never see him. He'd be He'd be there, break it into that vault, and you can do whatever on his island. You have free reign of his island, basically. So that seems pretty okay to me.
Would she have attachment issues, though?
Yeah, I'm assuming that, like, the marriage doesn't really budge him from his usual routine. If he transferred whatever the fuck he has going on in his head toward Connor to me, that's not good.
Gay rights!
The other two answers are pretty much locked in anyway, so. And if you would fuck Clockwerk, please sound off in the comments below.
I have a final question before we tune out.
Okay.
And by the way, in regards to what you just said, I don't think you want those kind of people coming out of the woodworks.
No, it's fine. You're the one who reads the comments more than me, so that's fine. The face you're making at me.
Okay, we've reached the end of the episode. If you liked it, please leave a like, a subscribe if you're not subscribed already.
Yes.
And a comment if you will, except if it pertains to fucking Clockwerk. Next episode, we'll be wrapping up our villain coverage with the minor villains questions.
Yes.
Do you have anything else to say before I ask my final question to sign off?
No, I think I'm ready to hear it.
If this was like the main villains episode and we covered Clockwerk, Neyla, and Dr. M,
Yeah?
then why didn't we have any questions on the paradox?
Who's that?
I just answering fuck, marry, kill with the paradox in it would have been chaotic.
Kill, 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 kill.
But then you'd have to marry Clockwerk.
Yeah, I would marry Clockwerk if it means killing that fucker.